Why do the same mistakes keep costing Man United? Now, it has been a frustrating ride lately. Yes, we did manage a tense win against Chelsea, and for a moment it felt like things might have started to click. That moment was like the first 10 minutes or so. And that coming on the back of that City defeat, it feels like United are just stuck in the same old, same old. And even in that Chelsea game where we managed to get a win, there were still a lot of the same old issues lurking. Week after week, United repeat the exact same mistakes. And it's costing us points, it's costing us patience. Today I want to break down those recurring tactical problems in clear terms. What are they? How do they feed into each other? How do they create a cycle of chaos? And why a change in approach is needed. There is no sugarcoating, just honest look at what I think is going wrong and maybe what might fix it. Now, first and foremost, and this is going to be a shock to absolutely nobody, we are overloaded in midfield. In the 3-4-3, occasionally a 3-4-2-1 system. In theory, it sounds exciting. You've got wing backs flying. You've got attacking midfielders right behind a striker, all nice and narrow where they can impact each other. In practice, it's had a few glaring flaws. Our central midfielder is always overmanned or outmanned. With just two deeper midfielders, we constantly find ourselves facing opponents who shove an extra body in the centre. Teams have figured it out. They deliberately overload the middle to exploit numerical advantage in that area. And we exacerbate that by deciding to press aggressively from there to wherever the ball is lost, because we've got 5 players ahead of the ball. One decently weighted pass puts someone in space, and then it's usually 3 or 4 against our back 3. Take the recent City game. City routinely moved their wingers into central areas to flood the midfield, and it was 3 and 4 versus 2. Fulham did something similar by dropping Alex Iwobi deeper, forcing our midfield to chase shadows. The result was United's midfield gets outrun time and time again. We are outmanned, outworked, and outpassed. The two-man pivot, which often has Bruno Fernandes in there with either Casemiro or Ugarte, has been left scrambling over massive swathes of space. Now, it doesn't help that Bruno Fernandes is a natural number 10 that is being used in this deeper role. When he plays well, he brings creativity, but off the ball, his instincts are too attack-minded, and his tracking runners is not something he's instinctively got. Bruno was switched off defensively and allowed people to ghost past him into the box. We saw it with Emile Smith-Rowe for Fulham. We saw it again with Phil Foden for City. Bruno just isn't a born holding midfielder, and it shows. The Premier League is too fast for you to be able to think about what you're doing. You have to play off instincts so much, and he doesn't have the natural defensive instincts. If and when he pushes forward, like he naturally does, it leaves his partner, whether that's Casemiro, Ugarte, or Kobe Mainoo if he's allowed an opportunity, to be completely isolated. And a single midfielder against 3 and 4 isn't going to work. That underload in midfield means that we struggle to control games, even when we dominate possession on paper. It just doesn't feel secure. Opponents, when they win the ball, just play right through our midfield or bypass it entirely. I think it's very telling that despite Amorim drilling the 3-4-3 into the squad, and the fact that he's not deviated from it all season, we still constantly leave ourselves exposed in that formation. And he knows that. He's spoken about that. The players should know their roles by now. But I think sometimes the structure and what they're asked to do sets us up to fail. Our expected goals against has actually worsened from last year, indicating that we're giving up far too many quality chances. And a lot of that, for me, comes down to the midfield offering almost no protection. In short, by persisting with 2 down the middle, with the instructions to press as aggressively as they do, we are fighting a losing battle in the engine room. Now, I did a whole video looking at how Glasner sets Crystal Palace up in a different way, and there are some options using the same system to get different results. If you want more detail on that, then go check that video. The second thing, and I haven't actually touched on this one at all this season, but that's the struggling to defend crosses. Almost all of our goals have come from this. Being outnumbered in midfield is one problem. Problem number 2 is what happens when the opponent exploits that and then puts the ball into wide areas. Manchester United cannot defend crosses. And that's the end of that. Manchester United cannot defend crosses, whether it's from a corner, whether it's from open play. every time a ball gets whipped into our box from the flanks, we're all holding our breath. Why? Because there's a real chance that this ends up in the back of the net. We have looked particularly shaky on set plays. We are looking particularly shaky on crosses. We rank near the bottom of the league in defending in those situations. Every corner feels like a heart in a mouth moment, with United defending for their lives on those deliveries. The recent evidence is damning. Arsenal, Fulham, Chelsea, we concede a goal because the winger has got all day to pick out a cross. Delo was left in a 2v1 situation, backed off. Iwobi had the freedom to curl a ball in, got tapped in at the far post. Delo never got close enough to stop that cross. That is a recurring theme. Our fullbacks are not getting across. They are not preventing the service into the box. And when it comes into the box, we don't deal with it. Used to criticise Wan-Bissaka for losing his man at the back post. But at least Wan-Bissaka could actually stop the cross when it was on his side. What we're seeing at the moment with Delo and some of the others, we are not stopping the cross at source, which you should be able to do because you've got 5 across the back line. Someone's absolutely got the ability to be able to go out and shut that down. But then we're not dealing with the ball once it comes in either. You can't have everything. You can't stop every ball coming into the box and then deal with it amazingly. There is a little bit of give and take in football. Sometimes people might say, listen, I'll get the cross off, but it might not be the best cross. Or sometimes people might say, like, look, I'm not going to get every cross off, but the ones I'll deliver, they'll be really good. That's how it works sometimes. There is always a little bit of a yin and a yang to this stuff. United are just yinging and yinging it because there's no yang. We let every cross in, and then every single one that they make connection with goes in. It's absolutely not good enough. And again, you saw it against Chelsea. The game becomes on a knife edge because we allow them to have a goal. And then the last 10 minutes are just unnecessarily nervy because we know a single cross obliterates us. Their goal came from a wide delivery. Trevor Shabala's outmuscled Lenny Yoro and he scored. A cross into a box doesn't get picked up, doesn't get dealt with. We lose an aerial duel. We concede a goal. These are basic errors. Failing to track runners, failing to attack a cross, failing to stop the ball coming in. And it's the same story every single week. Not one of those areas are we seeing any sort of level of growth. And what's frustrating is every team's doing data, every team's doing analysis, and every team we face now knows this. They know that they can stroll through our midfield and then they can hurt us by going wide and slinging one in the box, whether that's from open play or a set piece. We've got a bad habit of conceding from those, and it's only going to get worse once every team has gone, wait a minute, United are well shit defending, send them in, just keep sending it in. Until we fix that, until we get tighter to the crosses and smarter in the box, we're going to keep getting punished by even the most straightforward ones that come in there. Missed chances. So, midfield is shaky, defence is scared of crosses, but we're creating chances, right? Yeah, we are, but we're not finishing them. For all the talk of systems, football boils down to one thing. Can you score goals? And United have been underperforming badly in front of goal again this season. Now, what's different from this season to last season is that we weren't creating the opportunities last season. This year, we're actually creating the opportunities. We sit top of the XG league. We are literally leading that in terms of the quality of shots that we've created. We should have had a lot higher number of goals. The reality is only 1 win in the first 5 games in the league. Sorry, only 1 win in our first 5, only 2 wins in the league because the goal scoring has not matched the chance creation. Key players are misfiring. Bruno's misfiring. And Mbumo's not hitting the net with a frequency that you would expect. Cunha's been injured. Sesko's yet to get off the line. We're not seeing the goals and assists that our attacking play warrants. We should be showing a lot more for it. And that's not to say that any of them have suddenly become bad players. I don't think that's the case. I genuinely don't think that's the case. It's just, maybe it's a little bit of confidence. Maybe it's a little bit of game state. Maybe it's a little bit of nerves. We've seen shots go wide, one-on-ones are getting fluffed, and even when we do connect, opposition goalkeepers are pulling worldies out. We've seen both Raya and Donnarumma produce outstanding stuff to deny United in games this season. To put it bluntly, our finishing's just been wasteful. Far too many shots, not testing the keeper. And we have one of the worst shot conversion rates in the league. It's about 5 or 6% at the moment in terms of our shots hitting the back of the net. For context, even mid-table teams convert with far more frequency. We've been unlucky. We've hit the post, we've hit the bar a couple of times this season. Every possible thing that can go wrong in front of goal has gone wrong. And the underperformance in finishing is especially painful because, as we mentioned, it was a point of emphasis in the summer. We completely refreshed our entire forward line to be able to get a better tune out of them. Now, admittedly, we haven't started that new attack in a single game. You bring in Cunha and Bumo and Sesko. They've not played a single game together. Started a single game together. Sesko, as talented as he is, hasn't quite got into the swing of it just yet. I think he's still finding his feet. I think he's making good runs. And I think once he gets a goal, he'll probably kick on from there. And Bumo's been very lively and absolutely our best outlet, but not been clinical with it yet. And I think that's probably a little bit of a chemistry being a work in progress. You know, we can't afford to squander opportunities at the rate that we're seeing. Against City, there was virtually no threat at all until, you know, very, very late on in the game when City clocked off and allowed us to have a bit of a run around. United need to start getting chances early and putting them away. That wastefulness in front of goal heaps even more pressure on the midfield, which in turn heaps more pressure on the defence. If we can start scoring early when we're on top, the whole game changes. We can actually start playing with a little bit of comfort, a little bit of freedom, and not have to panic like we have been doing. But when you miss those big chances, it gives the opponents a chance. We let them grow in confidence. Inevitably, other issues, midfield gaps, dodgy defending, you know, they come back and bite us. So, you probably noticed by now, these issues aren't isolated. They are connected. They feed off and lead into one another, giving us this vicious cycle, dragging us down. So can we connect the dots here? When we don't finish our chances, when we fail to score despite dominating a spell in a match, the frustration builds. You can sense it in the players. They start to force it a little bit. They start to lose patience. The Fulham game is probably a perfect example of this. All over them for 15 minutes. I'm going, oh my God, look at us. You miss 2 or 3 big chances and suddenly it's like the belief just drained out of us. And after those early misses, we didn't register another open play shot for the rest of the match. It's like the players panicked as soon as plan A didn't yield a goal quickly. That loss of composure then plays into the midfield control issues, and instead of continuing with our shape and playing patiently, we start to leave our jobs, start trying low percentage hero plays, Hollywood stuff, trying to get back in the game, trying to make something happen. That opens up even more gaps, invites even more opposition onto us. And now that underloaded midfield is under more strain. Opponents seize momentum. 2 midfielders get overrun because we've lost the grip on the game and suddenly you're on the back foot and you've seen United go from looking comfortable to chaotic in the blink of an eye. And once we're stretched, we're scrambling, what happens? They move the ball into a wide area where, as we know, they sling it in and United are 1-0 down. Defenders are already outnumbered, out of position, not reactive. And then the keeper, who isn't very good at crosses, throws one in. It's a gut punch, man, but it's almost become familiar with us. Cast your minds back to that City game. We started pretty decently, didn't we? As soon as City scored, no belief. The match was settled immediately. We looked devoid of a plan B. We were figured out by that point. Players seem to know that once we fall behind, the structure doesn't give us a way back. We push forward without any sort of conviction or cohesion. We leave even more space for City to slice us open in midfield or on the break, and it turned into a rout. You can see the panic in the players, especially when we concede first. In the current setup, going a goal down just unravels us. We don't really have it in us to come back, I don't think. That lack of defensive solidity gets even worse when we chase games. We become more error prone. We make more mistakes. You start to see stupid cards dished out and given out. Whole thing becomes this like self-fulfilling prophecy. And then, that inability to score when on top keeps games on a knife edge, which leads to even more anxiety, exposes the midfield even more, and eventually those defensive frailties get laid bare. Opponents score, which rattles us even more and feeds into that chaos. It's a cycle, rinse and repeat. And we've seen the same tactical issues popping up time and time again after every single game under Amorim. And as a fan, it's tiring to watch because I've seen it far too often. Genuinely promising moments, genuinely look real good, real effective, unravels with an absolute quickness. So what's the solution? How do we stop history repeating itself every single match? Well, I think tactical flexibility and using the squad a little bit more. Tactical flexibility from Amorim. This is the immediate, no-cost, instant solution, but also the one that seems the least likely because Amorim's stance on it is so resolute. He needs to be more adaptable in his approach. I like the ideas that he's got by and large, and I like the principles of sticking to a vision, but you have to be able to get results, and a smart manager tweaks it. We are crying out for in-game adjustment or a plan B when things go wrong. The midfield's getting overrun. Can we drop a forward in to bolster that up? Can we move one of the wing-backs narrower to be able to get over it? Can we change how we transition? Can we be a little bit more pragmatic? Sensible tweaks make us win games. And yes, Amorim's been stubborn. I think all good managers are stubborn. He's on record as saying that not even the Pope could make him change his system. After the Derby defeat, he doubled down on it, saying, I'm just not going to change. If I want to change my philosophy, I will change. If not, you have to change the man. Basically being said, you don't like it, sack me. Adaptation is not a weakness. I think it's the key to survival. I think Amorim's in-game awareness has to translate into action because I believe he sees the game with the issues that we do. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's a smart guy. He acknowledges everything that we're all seeing in press conferences, that we lack control, transitions are hurting us. He even recognised the need to possibly tweak personnel, considering a change in goal after some errors. But that's where he starts to fall short because actually adapting or changing the system or even the instructions, he doesn't seem like he's keen to do that. I think if you could make some adjustments, patch up some holes, you might turn some draws and losses into wins. So what's the reinforcements? Yes, you can bring in new players. Yes, you can look at a Baleba, a Wharton, somebody like that coming into midfield. There's some talk of a Bruno Fernandes move in January. I don't know how realistic that is. If that was an option, refresh the squad in January. But I think the obvious one is the goalkeeper. There's been a bit of a circus with the goalkeeper situation. You bring in Andre Onana. Obviously, Amorim didn't bring him in, but he's the first choice. Whatever happens over the summer. Bayindir gets his choice and you bring in Saint-Lemens. Saint-Lemens has not been given any level of opportunity. A top team generally has an undisputed first-choice goalkeeper, though. And I think there's confusion at United at the moment. Or maybe there's not. Maybe there's just confusion for the outside, but not in terms of the squad. I just do not see on what level Amorim can look at Bayindir and say, that's who I want as my number one. We've been so poor on dealing with crosses, and you've got a goalkeeper here in Saint-Lemens who was literally the number one in two areas. He was 99.9 percentile for dealing with crosses, and he was the goalkeeper with the most number of saves in world football. I know it's in a different league, but doesn't that have to count for something? Bottom line is United are going to have to fix the tactics or fix the team. Probably both. The status quo is not sustainable. We are yet to win a back-to-back Premier League game with Ruben Amorim. Radcliffe and the owners are publicly backing him and giving him time to get it right, but that patience isn't everlasting. If the same tactical issues keep appearing without improvement, then it's not about calling for someone's head prematurely. He has to learn. You can't just say, well, this is my system, this is my system. Like, there has to be adaptation. There has to be progression. To get the backing and see the patience, we have to see something on the pitch. We have to see errors, and there has to be acknowledgement of those errors, and then there has to be fixing of those errors. Can't be dogmatic about it. Tweak the system. Stop giving control to every single team that we play. Swallow a little bit of pride. Start the new goalkeeper. Win back-to-back games. And tell fucking TalkSport shut the mouth. Can't keep repeating the same errors expecting a different outcome. It's insanity. Anyway, that's the 3 things that I'm seeing that United are constantly doing, which never seems to get fixed. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.